What can we think about these reports that Apple wants fewer supplies from these companies? Is this lack of confidence about future sales?
I think that seems to be maybe what how the market is interpreting it. It doesn't necessarily mean that is the case. Apple tries to keep a very firm grasp on its supply. It does not like to have vast amounts of inventory, so it controls that very, very tightly. That might then, of course, you could infer, well, if they're only asking 40%, perhaps demand is only around those levels. The other thing we have to think about is we knew going into this cycle that there were going to be problems getting OLED. That's the technology in the new screens, organic light-emitting diodes. If supply of that is still constrained, that means that the rest of the components needed to make the phone, they don't need those as quickly. So it could be one of a number of things.
We did see maybe lackluster is too strong a word, but a little slack demand for the 8s though, Alex.
Yes, but it's still hard to gauge to what extent that is to do with pent-up demand for the 10. I think there was an analyst note from Drexel Hamilton this morning. They also suggested that not only is there demand for the 10, but some people who might end up buying the 8 are going to wait to see the 10 first to see whether it's worth them splashing that extra sort of $300. And so that demand might still be coming into the next quarter.
Still, we're seeing shorter queues for iPhones. Is that a reflection of less demand, or just that they're being a little bit more efficient when it comes to those lines?
Well, no, actually, they're being more efficient in terms of getting people to pay monthly fees so that they get the iPhone pre-ordered. The Apple Upgrade Program is what it's called, and that's something that Apple really likes to do because it allows them to predict their revenue over a relatively extended period and give them more accuracy in those forecasts. The upshot is, of course, then they're not getting the significant queues that they used to have in days of yore.
So Apple has been trying to bring in as much in-house as possible of all the various things that it does. When are we going to start seeing that reflected in maybe numbers or in data or just even prognostications for demand?
I think actually in terms of what they're bringing in-house, a lot of it is semiconductor stuff, which then means that it increases the demand on the phone. Well, it allows them to come up with software which is dependent on the greater hardware. And that is something which will then, they hope, drive demand for the iPhones in subsequent generations. The idea being, right, that if you have a faster processor in the phone, you can do smarter things in the software. Therefore, the old phone you have becomes out of date and you've got to upgrade. That's really the kind of upshot we're seeing from these R&D investments. We'll look in a few years perhaps to see the new products, possibly smart glasses. That's the big one that everybody's hoping for. But Apple has in the past investigated new products and then abandoned them. So let's see if that really appears and surfaces.